Trade Drew Holiday for Nerlens Noel. Check. Draft 2 centers in a row. Check. Draft 3 centers in a row. Check. Draft a power forward after that. Check. Trade up to the number 1 pick and draft Markelle. Check. Hire a GM with no experience because he's a family member of one of your other hire workers. Check. Then hire a GM with no experience. Check. Trade Ben Simmons for James Harden, who is now demanding a trade. Check. These are all things the Philadelphia Sixers have done. They have been cooking absolute garbage recently. If they didn't hit on that Joel Embiid pick, which I mean, with their track record, was probably likely, um, they would be in terrible position right now. And the Markelle thing, I really don't blame Markelle. Markelle, I think, is a talented player. Was the number 1 overall pick, surefire. No one had any talks about it. Maybe Lonzo a little bit, but Markelle was a dog, and he had an injury. Like it was also a mental blockade, and he had the yips, and it was just hard to deal with. And these are real world things that had nothing to do with his talents. And yes, it's going to burn a lot of people who say they could have got Jason Tatum. There's nothing that says that the Sixers would have got Jason Tatum anyways. They would have drafted him anyways. I mean, it's obvious they were looking for a point guard. So maybe they trade up for Lonzo. Maybe they trade back for De'Aaron Fox. But I don't see how they get Tatum. It wasn't really not too much on their radar. But I mean, if you see him now, he's a great two-way player. Rising up, he doesn't have the volume to be a 18-point per game, 19-point per game, but in his volume with the 11, 6, and 5, and he's great on transition defense, and he's a good on-ball defender, and he gets steals and blocks. In a couple years, Markelle, he's going to be a little older, but he's going to have a late blossom that people are going to be like, wow, like he's been pretty good for a while. Yes. Ben Simmons, that situation is just unfortunate. I feel like he was in a position to fail from the beginning. You got Joel Embiid posting up on the other block. Tobias Harris was more of a mid-range shooter, and the court is just scrunched. So now Ben Simmons is playing his brand of basketball, which is him, with the court around him, a supporting cast around him that's like not able to help him. And they used him as a scapegoat. Doc Rivers used him as a scapegoat to have another couple years as an NBA coach, which I think his coaching style is outdated and doesn't lead to winning, and that's a whole other thing. But this all started when they traded Drew Holiday, 21-year-old all-star point guard, for Nerlens Noel. And the new GM, it was a new GM coming in, and he wanted to make not a new GM, he wanted to make a splash, and he was tired of the team being, a little disappointed. So he said, you know what? Fresh slate process. We're going to tank. We're going to get the top draft picks every year, and we're going to get even better. And then he proceeds to draft 3.3 centers in a row. Some of the worst drafting ever. Of course, they hit on one accidentally. I want to say accidentally, because their track record of drafting top 3 is wishy-washy. You got the Nerlens Noel. You got your Jahlil Okafors. In hindsight, people are gonna say you have your Markells, you have your Ben Simmons, but those two I don't really as much as Nerlens and Angelo. And then you trade. Look, there's a bright spot. JJ Redick, 1 year, $17 million. Trade for Tobias Harris from the Clippers, who was averaging 20 at the time. Trade for disgruntled Jimmy Butler. Great team, beautiful team. You get beat by Kawhi Leonard in 2019. Yes, that was a heartbreaker. Game 7. I don't think it should even went to Game 7. But it took you out of Game 7, and he got y'all up out of there. Then you get swept by the Celtics a couple years later. Actually, let me turn back to that offseason. You sign Tobias Harris to the max, and you push Jimmy to the side a little bit. You let him walk, essentially. And since then, that Jimmy Butler, who has signed with the Miami Heat, has been to 2 NBA Finals and 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. And I don't think there's been a single year with him in the Heat that they have finished in the playoffs behind the Sixers. They've always advanced ahead of them.